I'd like to call this Town Council of Urbana work session to order on May 11th, 2023. Let's have a roll call. Marjorie Austin.
Here.
Beth Justice.
Here.
Larry Tuning.
Here.
Bill Goldsmith is here. Alana Courtney.
Here.
And Sandy Sturgill.
Here.
I know Mary is out of town.
Okay.
So Mary Hansen's not going to be here this evening. So let's move on. Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a relatively short agenda this evening. I would like to entertain a motion for approval of the agenda for tonight.
Make a motion to approve agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is moved and seconded. Let's call for a vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Mr. Tuning?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
And Sandy?
Yes.
All right. The first item of business we have tonight is going to be a presentation. The Virginia Municipal League has an annual essay contest. If I Were Mayor was the contest, and a seventh grader at St. Clair Walker Middle School and resident of Urbanna, Victoria Gobush, was our winner. As the presenter, Joe Flores, Director of Fiscal Policy, is here representing VML. Prior to joining the league in January 2023, he was appointed Senior Policy Advisor to the Department of Accounts by Governor Glenn Youngkin in January of 2022, where he provided support to state agencies as they reported on their use of the $4.3 billion in America Rescue Plan Act funds. Prior to that, Joe was appointed Secretary of Finance in July 2021 by Governor Ralph Northam. Previously, Joe served as Deputy Secretary of Finance, where he helped lead Governor Northam's successful Medicaid expansion effort. And Joe also served as a Deputy Secretary of HHR for Governor Terry McAuliffe. For 2 decades, Joe advised legislators in Texas, Minnesota, and Virginia on the breadth of fiscal policy issues in health and human resources, including a dozen years with Virginia State Senate Finance Committee. Joe earned a bachelor's degree in history from Texas A&M University and obtained a Master of Science in Public Management and Policy from Carnegie Mellon University. Mr. Flores,
Thank you,
to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. As you mentioned, each year VML sponsors a contest. It's an essay contest asking seventh graders across the Commonwealth to submit their ideas about how they can improve their community. This year, we ask young people to submit their ideas, identifying a problem in their community, talking with local officials, and coming up with solutions. It's a very competitive process every year. This year was no different. We had hundreds of submissions. As was mentioned, I'm here this evening to present the award to Miss Victoria Gobush, who is the Region 8 award winner. If you haven't read her essay, I would commend it to you. I was very impressed. Not only did she lay out the need for a teen rec center here in Urbanna, it could also be used for other purposes as well, so it's not just for teens necessarily. The thing that I was most impressed about, and I've been doing state government finance for almost 30 years, is not only did she lay out the problem, but she explained some ways that it could be funded. And I'm sure you guys are aware, oftentimes when people come to you and explain what the need is and don't necessarily offer up suggestions about how to do it. They leave that up to you guys.
Right.
So I was very impressed with that. And again, she laid it out very nicely. So it's my honor to present not only this certificate to her, there you go, but also a gift card of $150 for you to spend. And also her essay will be published in the current issue that VML publishes each month. So everybody across the Commonwealth will get a chance to see what homegrown work is done here in Urbanna. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here and taking a little bit of your time, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Victoria, would you like to read your essay? you want to take the podium?
You did a great
And,
job.
and something I would like to say, I've read a bunch of these things over the years, and the essays that are written for the Mitchell map, and I have to commend you on your sentence structure and the way it was put together, because that's something I find is missing. It's a lost art to actually write things. I was always told there's no such thing as writing, there's only rewriting, and you seem to put it together pretty well, and I commend you on that.
Thank you. Have you ever wondered what teenagers do for fun in Urbana, Virginia? Well, if you ask me, there's not much for us to do here. Currently, teenagers just go to the park and hang out, watch their siblings play, and eat junk food. If that sounds boring, you are correct. If I were mayor of Urbana, I would create a multi-purpose teen center. It is important to keep teenagers busy and active in our community. Building a teen center would do both of those things. This multi-purpose teen center should be a large enough space for games and activities such as board games, pool tables, air hockey, computers, sports equipment, etc. Also, it should have cozy furniture, big TVs, music, and cool decor such as posters and LED lights. Local teens should have a place to hang out and have safe fun. While this center is primarily for teens, it could be used for other events in the community, such as local meetings, exercise classes, and parties. You may be wondering who will pay for this. After speaking with the locals about this issue, I came up with some fundraising ideas. Local teens could start a GoFundMe page on social media. We could also reach out to local businesses and corporations to ask for donations, such as money, time, furniture, or skill. Also, we could organize fundraisers such as bake sales, car washes, and dog walking. Where would this multi-purpose teen center be located? Well, Urbana seems to have a handful of empty buildings. On one of these buildings could be converted into teen center. The building could be purchased or rented with fundraising money and or donations. Locals could also volunteer their skills, time, furniture, and games. Our town needs more space and activities for teens. Local teens do not want to hang out at Tabor Park all the time. A teen center would give them freedom and space to do fun things together. Fundraising could be a challenging, but not impossible. With good planning and help from the community, local teens could work at the teen center to keep it running, organized, clean. A multi-purpose teen center would be a positive thing for all of Urbana.
Now, as you're probably aware, we don't have a teen center plan, but we're trying to build a pool which would provide employment for you in the summer, as well as another space to go. We're going to have,
Take some pictures.
Yeah.
And we're gonna put her in.
Yeah,
the
why don't
seat
you come
she's
over
gonna be
here to the-
Holding in a few years.
Yeah.
So they can get up to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move too.
She's gonna sit in the seat.
Oops, sorry.
Okay, sounds good.
Should we step down?
Stay where
Yeah,
you
let's
are.
do the left, yeah. No, you still here. Okay. Come on in here, girl. Maybe nothing but women. Take the.
We just get rid of Larry. We just have all women. Hey,
yeah, let me get
scoot down one, Alana. Scoot down one.
There you go.
Come here. No, just let them be.
Yes.
Bobby.
See how it feels, and then stay here.
Watch out, Bill.
No, I'm good.
You're going, man. Thank you for your service. Okay, let's take one with you guys looking here on this one. All right, give me a second. Anybody want to get behind me? Ready, set, 3, 2, 1. We got another from Tony. Set, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Wait, one more.
One more, please. Sorry.
Go ahead. Look at this.
1, 2, 3, smile.
Set.
Great.
You should have the gavel in your hand.
Good job.
Good photo op.
Circus runs away.
Yeah. The mayor ran away with the circus and was replaced by Victoria Gobush. That's your article next week.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for doing that.
All right. Next on the agenda, as you may or may not be aware, the Tabor Fund has been managed by the Davenport Company for quite a while. Gary Clay was the person who oversaw what happened with that fund for multiple years. Brian Manetz picked up his place 2 years ago. Correct. And has been working with the town since that point. The fund was in a safe and balanced fund that was all large capital companies. It's a highly, I think, 4 or 5 star rated Morningstar fund, capital and income builder with American funds. Because the environment has changed and our goals are a little bit different in that we want to try to grow that fund a little more quickly, and with as much money as there, we have started to, not only a couple years ago we started reinvesting capital gains, but we have also started reinvesting the interest and dividends. To that end, though, we've got cash that's sitting there that could be invested, and we also should, I think, and that's why Brian is here, to introduce himself so that the council knows who he is, and to discuss the benefits of diversification and what that could mean for us, as well as possible ideas as to what to do with the cash that's sitting there so that it's not just sitting in a low interest fund, because the interest rate environment has changed such that we can do better with those investments, and that's the goal, is to grow this thing as quickly as possible. So with no further ado, Brian.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council, for having me tonight. I've been told to try to be quick. You have other items on the agenda. And if you'd like, I'm happy to stay longer. It appears that there might be discussion later in the evening, so if you'd like me to stay, I'm happy to do that and be available for that. I gave everybody a booklet with some information. Probably the first thing to look at would be a summary of the Capital Income Builder Fund, just sort of to remind everyone, as Bill so eloquently said, what they're actually doing in that portfolio. Gary was being very conservative with the town, and I think the interesting thing to point out on that very first page here is there are lots of lines in the bottom there. The red line is the 10-year Treasury yield, and for the last 15 years, yields have been extremely low. They've been compressed with very slow economy. During that time frame, quite often treasuries were only yielding approximately 1%, bank investments were yielding below 1%, and this portfolio was yielding closer to 3.5%. So it generated a lot of income for the town when there really weren't other places to generate income. Now, if you flip to the second page, let's look at performance numbers. I think you really want to gauge the performance of a mutual fund, and those numbers are kind of in the middle of page 2 on the 10-year performance numbers. Again, thinking about what the banks have been able to do the last 10 years, really, if you averaged 1% the last 10 years with the bank, you were doing quite well. This fund has averaged in excess of 5%, so it did its job. But there are other options within American funds, and when you have an investment in American funds, they have over 30 different mutual funds. You have what's called a free exchange provision, where you can move a portion of the account, all of the account. You can do it as many times as you want to any combination of those other mutual funds. So the next printout in there is another option available by American funds. The reason I included this option, Washington Mutual Investors Fund, it's been around since 1952. And if you look at the fund of distinction, sort of in the middle page there, that paragraph, I think the key thing for this mutual fund is it's very, very careful and cautious with their stock selection. This fund has really been established for fiduciaries, for attorneys and foundations and estates to be fiduciarily compliant. They have an extremely strict selection criteria. Less than 2% of the publicly traded stocks in the United States are eligible as investments in this portfolio. You have to check every box on their list to qualify as a prospective investment. If you flip to page 2, and again, these are just examples, not end-all recommendations for you. If you flip to that next page, again, in the middle, it's going to show you trailing performance numbers on the fund. We just saw that Capital Income Builder was a little over a 5% return. This particular fund is over an 11% return over the same time frame. So much more growth potential for the town with an investment option like this. Now, to be fair, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. It's more apples to oranges. The Capital Income Builder portfolio usually has 25 to 30% bonds. This particular fund is 100% stocks. Very strict selection criteria, but more risk, and that's why they're getting more return. So I just wanted to show that as one potential option. There are other options that you could move a portion of the investments to, and those would actually, one that might be worth your consideration is actually proprietary models that we have at Davenport. We're an employee-owned firm. We have been in business since 1863. The name has never changed because we're employee-owned. About 37 years ago, we started a profit-sharing plan for all of the employees, and we decided to manage the money internally ourselves for our employees. And over the years, we now have about 5 different investment models. All of the portfolio managers work at Davenport. They all have their retirement nest eggs invested in these models, and they're guarding the hen house very closely because of that. So clients really like that. We're invested right alongside our clients with these models. 2 options that might be worth considering, again, just to kind of throw this out for consideration. We have an excellent, on like page 2 of that second binder, we have an excellent mid-cap portfolio. American Funds is very good with large cap stocks. They're probably the best out there. That's why the state of Virginia picked them to handle the Virginia 529 college savings account. They're the sole money manager. If there's a weakness with American Funds, they don't tend to do a whole lot in the mid-sized companies or the small companies. So that's why I've included some information on our equity opportunities portfolio. Since inception, that fund is a 5-star rated fund, average return of about 11.4%. So again, different animal than Capital Income Builder, but higher returns because it's investing in mid-cap stocks, does not have the bond exposure. One of the other reasons I'm mentioning these Davenport models is all of our models are what are called no-load funds. Quite often when you go to a mutual fund manager, you may have to pay an upfront commission unless you're investing $1 million at a time. So I like the fact that we can offer clients the exact same investments we're using with our own retirement money. There's no upfront charge, there's no holding period required, the performance numbers are good, and there's no early withdrawal penalty. So that might be worth taking a look at. And again, these are just options. We have a wide variety of other options that we could discuss in more detail. The final example I threw out there was our small cap fund. That's the mutual fund that's in blue. It's a few more pages back. Our small cap portfolio is absolutely fantastic. 2 of the youngest, brightest portfolio managers at Davenport are the managers on this account and have been since its inception. That fund has averaged about 10.6% a year since they started it. Just underneath that, to put it in perspective, if you look at the performance numbers and look at that lifetime performance number since inception, just underneath it, they're showing you the benchmark index and the performance of that index. The benchmark index actually averaged closer to 6% over the same time frame. So to beat the index by over 4 percentage points a year since inception puts this mutual fund in the top 1% of small cap managers in the country. So I think it's something that offers very competitive returns and again is very cost effective. And that's pretty much all I had for your consideration tonight, just to give a few examples to start things.
Now, the Davenport funds, are their managerial fee? I know American Funds, I think the Capital Income Builder is only like a 0.4% annual management fee.
Correct.
What the Davenport funds, where are they?
Great question. So we're managing about $9.4 billion. give or take. American Funds is managing $1 trillion. So their funds range between 0.3 to maybe 0.6, depending on which fund you're looking at. Our funds range closer to like 0.79 to 0.9%, depending on which fund you're looking at.
Okay.
So that's the big thing, is the economies of scale that they have versus us.
And the figures you were talking about in terms of 10-year return were the net numbers?
That's correct, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And anyone else have any questions?
Well, I'm assuming that somebody like Brian would make those decisions. I mean, you know more about,
I'd be happy to work with the finance
Investing than we
committee.
do.
I just wanted
Right.
to give a
I mean-
20,000 foot, it might make sense to talk further. And yes, we would be very comfortable making an asset allocation recommendation, making specific dollar amounts that we would suggest you move and why. And of course, we would discuss in much more detail with the finance committee what the expenses would be. But the key is we can consider multiple managers. There's 30-plus options at American Funds that could be considered. There's 5 options at Davenport. Adding a new manager with a new skill set, a new level of expertise would not be bad for the town. For the same reason you want to diversify investments, it may not be a bad idea to diversify managers as well. But we wanted to come up with some solutions that might make sense that also would not result in any kind of a charge to the town for making that change.
Right. And that was the whole purpose of this exercise in the introduction, was to let other council members know who Brian was, because he replaced, like, a long time member of the community, but also to investigate the possibility of a little more diversification, because it is a diversified fund and it has done well for the town over time, but there's a lot of money in one sector of the market. And I've always thought that was better to have it diversified into multiple areas rather than have it in one bin. And so that's why I had Brian come talk to us.
We're gonna talk about this later, so maybe, I'm sure I'm supposed to know this. But the 500,000, has that been taken out of the fund?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what we are talking about doing something with too.
No, we're talking about the stuff, the $870,000 that's still in there. It got down to 830 or 820,
Correct.
and it's now back up to 870.
So it's growing.
It's growing.
It
yes.
is growing.
But there's also $35,000, I think,
That's-
in cash or cash equivalents, that rather than just sitting there in cash, we should at least be earning CD rates of 4 or 5% territory, as compared to 1% or whatever the.
I see
is
this,
that-
I want to say this publicly. I see this as a way of paying back the money
Yes.
that we took out.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
That's the reason for the discussion.
So Bill, what you're saying, the 30,000 that's sitting there cash, is that what we normally pull out to give to the fire department rescue?
That's what we would normally be pulling out. We'd be drawing from that, but we've
So we're
agreed
not going to do
touch
that anymore?
And the current budget that's going out, that is going to be, handed out to you for you to look at, so that at the next meeting, and in between that time, really, any questions or thoughts, you should check with, predominantly Roy or me, as the primary builders of this thing, to see if you've got any input, so that we can discuss it
Okay.
publicly at the next meeting, so that we can then present it for a public hearing at the first meeting in June, and then vote on it at the last meeting in June, so that we meet the requirement of having a fiscal year budget at the end of June.
Okay.
Okay? And so this exercise was really to get the consensus of the council to let the finance committee work with Brian to do some investment of the cash that's in the Tabor Fund, as well as diversification of the funds that are there, going into places where the transfer of the funds is not going to cost the town money. There's always fees associated with the management of the funds on an annual basis. That's neither here nor there. But the point is, we would be moving into a spot where it's not going to cost us to shift the funds. It's just going to change the diversification of the assets.
one of the things we've been running into is that citizens are saying, well, you're never gonna pay it back. And it would be hard to pay it back, I know that. But I see this as a means of paying it back, and so we need to be proactive in doing
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you for your time. And again, if you think there's going to be further discussion, I'd be happy to stay. It's whatever works best for everyone.
Does anybody else have a question for Brian?
No.
I don't think so.
Need to go over.
No, I mean, I'd leave it up to Brian.
Well, thank you for that. I now know after hearing Victoria's essay and Joe's resume why I was second on the agenda. That was a great decision, so. Well, thank you for your time,
Thank
and
you
I'll
so
look
much.
forward to hearing from you guys.
Yeah,
Take
thanks,
care.
Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you want to sponsor a teen center, just let us know.
Yes, yes, I was, she may be waiting for me.
Bye-bye.
And I guess at this point, even though it's at the end of the agenda, could I have a motion to allow the,
I'll make a motion to refer the review of possible diversification.
yeah, what she
of
said?
Tabor funds to the Finance Committee for further study.
All right.
And to return to council for with recommendation.
All right,
I'll second the motion.
okay. Any discussion?
I just think we need to publicly, every year, at some point in time, let the community know, maybe at a council meeting,
Right, and
that we are getting more money in that account.
Right.
yes, and that's, you know, part of the purpose of doing this. There was a time pre-COVID where Gary Clay would come and just say, here I am, any questions, give me a call.
Yeah.
And that sort of disappeared with COVID. And he and I had discussions about diversification pre-COVID as well. Had we diversified at that point, we would have not looked as good because the market tanked as much, and would have taken a hit that way. But
One of the other things I think we need to be looking at is, you know, we sort of let the fox in the hen house now with the taper fund. And so we need to be, maybe we need some rules and guidelines as to how the next group goes about taking money out of that fund. I don't know how to do that, but that may be something you all need to think about. Because now, it's pretty well been determined that we can take the money out anytime we want. And I think we need some guidelines, restrictions, something.
okay,
And
Very
it's, I don't, not tonight, not next week, but, you know, let's think about that, you know.
and I guess the question that I put to council is, there are three of us that are on the finance committee that are sitting here.
Right.
And the question is whether the council is comfortable with us working with Brian and the committee just doing the investment rather than bringing it back to council for a vote. I mean, that's.
As long as Brian's making most of the decisions.
Yes, he's gonna be making the
You
recommendation.
don't want me making
I
this
know,
stuff.
And-
'cause I know him,
and
he's very
it-
sharp.
As the trustee and not wanting that hangman's noose around my head, I want somebody else to be in the rope with me.
Yeah, we want to leave it to a professional. And he's
Yeah,
very,
I
Okay.
totally agree with that.
Okay, so, do we have to amend the motion then to, yes, okay. Do you want to amend that to let you said to bring it back to council?
Yeah, I want it to come back to council.
So you don't want the finance committee to,
Make the decision. Well, they can make a recommendation. I just don't think it should be just based on
on three?
on the
of us?
yeah. No, I think it needs to be.
What are y'all talking about? Clarifying your original motion,
Yeah.
what you wanted. Okay.
Okay. So the motion is
About referring it to the committee.
that the committee return the recommendations back to council.
Return to council with a recommendation.
Yeah, that's what we should be
That's what's
doing.
in the-
Okay, all right. So
Yes.
that's the motion. It's been seconded, right?
Yes.
Let's have a vote. Marjorie?
Yes.
Beth?
yes.
Larry?
Yes.
I say yes. Alana?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on. Public comment.
No one signed up.
No.
Nobody signed up.
Man,
Where's Billy Mayo when we need him? Is he okay? Everybody know he's okay? All right.
Oh, Deputy.
That, I guess that's my response, is where's Billy Mayo? All right.
Tammy's here.
Yeah, Tammy's represented.
But Tammy doesn't talk as much as Billy. All right.
I bet he
Matters of
could.
Town Council. Who's picking up ordinance 2301?
I'm gonna do that. Ordinance 2301, we're gonna have a public hearing May 25th on this. It's a joint hearing between the Planning Commission and the Town Council. And I wrote up a little summary of the reason why we would entertain this zoning amendment, the ordinance would allow as a right by use the construction, modification, or operation of residential apartments and or condominium units within the B1 district, that's the commercial district. There exist a few such apartments currently in the district, but these were grandfathered in because they were established before the adoption of the current zoning code. And places like Virginia Street Cafe and some other places have limited apartments above. There is a need for additional rentals in the town in general, and modernizing the code to allow this additional use will help with the ease that shortage. The proposed amendment would limit the number of such dwellings to not more than 6 per lot in town. The whole idea is right now you can establish a single-family dwelling, duplex or multifamily dwelling on a case-by-case basis in association with a permitted office, business, or commercial use in the same building or in the same premises. The problem is the buildings have to be related, the apartments have to be related to the business that's there. So this would remove that and let somebody build, basically, an apartment building, no larger than 6 units in the commercial district. That's all it does. And we have had people from the Planning Commission and the town council members inquire about that. We had some people kind of interested in doing some similar work like that at the Green Building, which you now know is being gutted. But they weren't going to do it in conjunction with anything else. So they basically were foreclosed from doing that. So this would just allow them to do it. And, you know, we got at least 3 vacant buildings that we ought to be doing something with.
Absolutely.
And this would also allow what is increasingly common, where you have businesses on the first floor and apartments above.
Multi-use.
Multi-use.
Yep.
And they would be independent, the businesses would be independent from the apartments.
Right.
So that, and we'll discuss this all at the May 25th public hearing, but you just should be aware of why this all came up.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
That's that.
Okay. Memorial Day service.
No action is required on this. We've scheduled their now annual Memorial Day service for Memorial Day, May 29th, 2023 at 11 a.m. at the town marina. And Mayor Bill Goldsmith, Delegate Keith Hodges, Reverend Eddie Heath will be speaking, and the band Jubal will be providing music. And the American Legion will be doing the flag presentation. And if you look in your packet, there's a copy of the rough copy of the agenda, as well as the proclamation that the mayor will be presenting at the service.
Questions?
Nope.
All right. Pool update. I think the only thing there is that we're shifting our focus to fundraising now that we're moving on, and we're trying to enlist those people in town that are really good at that to help us get that done. So that's, I think, the only update there. Well, number 6, do you want me to just keep going?
If you like to, I can.
Well, I'll just say that the observation well is completed and they're moving to the production well. Anything else?
I was up there this afternoon, and the well is going to go down to about 850 feet. And they're at 510 feet now, so
Okay.
they're well on their way. And a very interesting thing is they have piles of core samples for every 10 feet. And at about 80 to 90 feet, it's all shells. And that was the level, sea level, a long, long time ago. But way up on that hill, that was underwater. So
That's pretty cool.
if you ever walk up the hill, you can see
And,
that.
and 850 feet, I think the old well is what, 670 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how deep the.
But it's less
well
than
on the
700 feet, and I think that's where Rosegill is about. So I've always thought it was better to have the longer straw.
Yes. It's there.
Interesting.
Sharing sodas with siblings, that's an important thing. All right. Action item, the action item was what we just voted on, was to work with Brian to come up with ideas for diversification of the Tabor Fund. Announcements, we got a thank you letter from the Urbanna Oyster Festival thanking us for letting them use our property, and asking us to tell them if they got any complaints.
Furniture. You want to talk about Sandy's furniture?
Sandy's.
What?
Oh, yes, on the pool. That's Sandy Sturgill scored us a major cache of tables and chairs for the pool.
Good job.
And that's a, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for reminding me.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's,
Good job.
yeah, there's, I don't know, it looks like there was about 30 chairs and half a dozen tables. Which, that covers a lot of territory right there in terms of stuff to have around the pool.
Sandy,
Wow.
Sandy, do we have to go get that stuff?
He said he would store them until we needed them.
Oh,
This is, in McDonald's. Yeah, and
Oh,
he's
good.
got it in
Is
his
it-
warehouse in Richmond. And he
That's
said he would store them
fantastic.
until we wanted to come get them.
We're making money
Good
now.
job. Good job.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
I know it's not on the agenda, but I was wondering, Madam Attorney, where we are in regards to the boundary line adjustment item.
I was getting ready to bring that up.
I saw that adjourned. I wanted to make sure I got it in there.
Yeah, that's,
We are moving forward. I've forwarded, Andrea prepared the announcements for the paper for us to hold their public hearings, both the county and the town. And I have forwarded that to Matt, and we have been in correspondence. And the next step is for council to pick a date as to when we want to hold the public hearing for that.
Is Middlesex gonna, do you think they'll do it for that June date?
That's what they're shooting for. And we've been talking back and forth about what our plans were. So,
Well, Heather Lewis, too, is somebody you need to keep in touch, county attorney. I think that was the agreement that Board of Supervisors had, the two of you all would work together.
right.
I
To
think
make
the
it
legal part is done. We've got the ad, we've got the agreement.
Okay.
We just need to,
Great, that's fantastic.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other announcements from staff?
the closing of 45 Cross Street building is tentatively scheduled for June 1. So we're moving forward with that project as well. And then the farmers market and second Saturdays is scheduled for this Saturday. The farmer's market is from 9 to 1, and second Saturdays is from 4 to 8. And Marjorie, you want to talk a little bit about the band, or you have anything to add?
The band is Abbey Road. They're
They're a Beatles tribute band
Beatles tribute band.
out of Charlottesville. And whether they're here or not will depend on the weather.
So,
If it rains, so far they're calling for rain, unfortunately. I hope that it's gonna change, but I'm gonna have to call that Saturday morning because if they show up and it rains, we gotta pay them. If
and it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and we had, last year it rained
Yeah.
on our first one,
Yeah.
and we had to cancel the band, so we're hoping.
Without rain, we've got 6 food trucks, a lot of vendors, 2 breweries and 2 wineries. One out of Heathville is new. It's gonna come, so.
And I'm from Charlottesville, and so I'm a member of a couple of the Charlottesville Facebook things, and they have really been posting this.
Yes.
And several people from Charlottesville have said they were coming, so they've been
Let's hope for no
advertising.
rain. It can happen.
Yeah, there's quite a few
Pray for
from
no-
Norfolk and Chesapeake that are gonna have posted that they're gonna follow with them, so it's pretty exciting.
I've been working with them pretty closely. I've got to be friends with Barry, and my husband's gonna be running sound for them, so we got them covered on the PA and the sound. But they really want to come, and I told them they could change at my house, so they got a place to change. And we're just really hoping no rain, or very little.
Beth?
WX Risk, Dave Tolerus.
Yeah,
Get him
on
to give you
Facebook.
a good prediction for Urbana.
Oh, for weather?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
he's excellent.
okay. Thank you.
All right, anything
Where they
else?
playing, Beth?
They're gonna be at the park.
Yeah, one more thing. Maybe 2 more things, but one more thing. Once the boathouse is finished with Montague down there, we need to take a look at that road. We historically have looked after that road
Right,
and paid for it.
yeah,
And,
You're talking about the road coming down the hill?
yeah, and
no, the road going from the condos to
The gravel.
marina,
Oh, okay.
the
Yeah.
gravel.
And Garth and I have talked about that, but seemed silly to do anything with it
I wouldn't do
until Latney's done tearing the place up.
Yeah, we've had a lot of activity down here today. We had a school come from Washington DC that had a program down there today.
Yeah.
They stopped at top of hill in a major large bus and walked down the hill. And then the 6th grade from, I guess, St. Clair Walker Elementary School.
Yeah,
Middle school, not
Middle
elementary school,
school.
was down there today.
they were hooting and hollering and having the biggest time
Yeah.
I've ever seen out there in the water.
I mean, this is what
We're about.
public
It was great.
access is all about.
Right.
When we have children like this being able to
Yep.
utilize, and it's the Rappahannock, what's the name of the outfit that,
Friends of the Rappahannock.
Friends of the Rappahannock, you got it. They're sponsoring this stuff, and it's fantastic.
Can I ask one question? Do we have anything to say about grant money? Have we applied for any grants or got any plans for grants?
I have none right now.
Nothing.
Nothing right now.
We thought about a grant writer.
I haven't found one.
Yeah,
We found one.
Good.
yeah, we've got a grant writer that will work on a per item basis.
We just haven't heard from them recently.
Well, that's not a good sign.
Well, he said at the time that he was swamped.
I bet.
All right. Marjorie,
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Second.
Discussion?
Do it.
Sandy?
No.
No.
Yes. No discussion.
No discussion. Yes for the vote.
Yes.
Alana?
Yes.
Yes. For me?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Beth? Marjorie?
Yes.
Meeting is adjourned.